Can I tell you a secret? You can do a drumming circle with just a few drums. You really don't need to have that many. I have always wanted to do a drumming circle. It looks so cool and so much fun, but I held myself back a little bit because I just didn't think I had the right instruments. Well, I just got done with a 10 lesson unit of world drumming. It went amazing, and I only have 6 tabanos. So let's dive in today to talking about how I did a world drumming unit for the very first time, the things that I learned, and my top tips and takeaways to help you if you are interested in doing a drumming circle yourself. So my first tip for you is get a good book. There are a lot of really great world drumming books out there, but the one that I used is the World Music Drumming? Yeah, World Music Drumming by Will Schmid. What I really loved about this is a little pricey. It's like $65-ish, but it has some really great things in it. It has something that you could probably use this book for years and years and years. Just take 1 or 2 ensembles out of it. The things I really loved about it is it's very step by step. It tells you exactly how to start the circle, what to do, some warm-up activities, how to teach the ensembles. I did just ensemble 1 in this 10 unit, and we'll talk about why just one ensemble in a moment, but he also has in there like recordings. He has videos of him showing exactly the technique to use it. So I really loved this, and I love that it was a kind of performance-based, ensemble-based, because the students had a goal to work towards, because we actually did like an ending goal of the students playing for a teacher or taking a video of it to show their teachers. So it was really fun, and I really highly recommend that book. The second tip for you is that instrumentation can be really flexible. Like I said before, I really held myself back from doing a unit like this because I just thought I needed like a class set of, djembes or congas or tabanos. That really isn't the case. You can have, it is helpful to have, you do want to have some larger drums. But you can really supplement with like frame drums and all these non-pitch percussion instruments like cowbell and cabasa and claves and rhythm sticks and cowbell, all kinds of different things. So I used a lot of varied different types of instruments. And what I did to do where students could kind of equitably share the instruments, have that experience on the larger drum, especially with the low tone and the high tone and getting that feeling. So what I did is I set up my circle I had sets of 3 of instruments that were the same. So like I would have like 3 large tabanos, and then I would have like a non-pitch percussion like cowbells, and then I'd have frame drums, and then I would have like claves, and then I'd have my 3 smaller tabanos, and then I would have like next up, güiro, right? So it was kind of like drum, non-pitched, drum, some type of drum, non-pitch, and that was kind of my rotation. So I'd set up that circle and then have those sets of different instruments, and so the students would rotate with their group. So what was really nice about it, because at first I was thinking, I'll just do like drum and then cowbell and then drum and then clave and then drum and then rhythm sticks. But they need their ensemble, they need their group together to help them with, staying strong on their part. So I wanted them to really get in the habit of having some buddies with them. But then as they rotate, they're rotating to the next instrument group, not just like the next chair or the next instrument. So I had them do it that way, and it worked out beautifully, and they got so much experience on different types of instruments, and I think they really enjoyed getting to play some of those non-pitch percussion instruments, especially the ones like I don't have a lot of. Like I only have 3 cabasas, but it worked out perfectly, and so they got to experience some other instruments that they don't normally get to use as much. Next up is, it is a lot to get this set up, and especially if you're like me and you have short classes, 30 minutes, and you have no time in between. I always had first grade before and then 5th grade, and they were always at the end of the day. So my first graders, they could help me a little bit, but they are not going to really be able to help me set it up. So I always came in, we were cleaning up from first grade, and 5th grade I had to help them, like kind of train them on how to get this circle set up. So how I did it is, you don't necessarily need chairs or stools, but I do happen to have some stools in my room. So I first assigned certain students that were in charge of setting up the circle with the stools. And I actually, again, my love of color coding, I have masking tape in all different colors. And so my lines are like, I have a red, orange, yellow, green where they sit. And so I also have like red 1, red 2. and so on and so forth. So I actually color coded my chairs, where I have a stack of red stools where it's a little red masking tape that says red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have orange stools, yellow stools, green stools. So I have color coded it. You don't have to be that that much, but if you want to. It was really nice because the chair captains would set it up, and then I'd just be like, okay, find the stool that matches your color. So it took a little bit of time to help them understand like where they're going. I created an image on my board that they could kind of copy, but you do need to kind of help them. But after a few times, always the same kids are doing it, they understand after a while. So that's what I did. And then I always assigned a certain student always an instrument to get. So we would kind of take a tour of the classroom of like, here's where the cowbells are, here's where the claves are, here's where the large conga and timpanos are. Let's talk about how do you know that they're a large conga timpano? How do you know it's a smaller conga timpano? We look at the rim, like, you know, things like that. So kind of talking them through where the instruments are and what are they. And then you're training those students to always go and get that certain instrument. So by the time we like had worked on it, I would say like it took us about maybe three minutes or so to set up the circle. Probably in the beginning it was definitely like 5 minutes to set it up, but it doesn't take too long, and then it's a little pressure off of you because it's a lot to set up all of that by yourself. The final tip with that is always set up the room like everyone is there, because I learned the hard way. One time I like took out a chair because this kid wasn't there, and then it threw off the rotation because, yeah, maybe these three small conga timpano group, there was one kid con, so we didn't get the timpano out. But when the next group of three that are all there switch to the next instrument group, then they have a missing conga timpano, and we'd have to get it anyways. So just always set up your circle like everyone is there. Next up is repetition, repetition, repetition. Like I said, this was a 10 lesson unit and it was a long time. So we said the parts, we moved to the parts, we played the parts. Like we had a lot of less echoing and more just joining in. A lot of this book, you know, the cultural way of learning some of these ensembles, like the first ensemble in the book is a West African piece, is through rote. It's not through like writing and reading it. Like you're just joining in and learning it orally and things like that. So we did a lot of repetition. I think the first like 3. So how the book is set up, there's 6 parts that layer on top of each other, and they're all ostinatos essentially. And so the first 3 like main core pieces, they're like the drum parts. Everyone plays them. First of all, everyone learns every single part. They may learn on a non-pitched percussion instrument, but we're rotating through, and they hopefully will get that turn on that drum to practice the part. And I think those first 3 ostinatos, we worked on like 3 or 4 lessons and just played them over and over and over and over. And they got to experience them on different instruments and different parts. And then we practiced layering the 3 ostinatos over and over and over. So definitely lots of repetition in this unit. I also found it helpful to show, I actually like YouTubed, could I find like the ensemble in action and like on YouTube, and there is a few videos out there of people, either like a teacher is playing it him or herself, and they like layer themselves in and like do some fancy video editing so you can see all the parts. And I thought that really helped like them visually being able to see what it sounds, what it looks like. So that has been really helpful too. So if you take on the first ensemble, there are plenty of videos on YouTube where you can see it in action. And I think that really helped my students. I didn't show it to them right off the bat, but after a while, you know, once those things were starting to click, but maybe it was on like, they just needed that last little push, I'd be like, hey, here's what it looks like, so that you can actually see how they fit into each other. And then it also helped with like motivation, so that students could like kind of see that end result and be like, yeah, I really want to do that. And then finally, don't forget the culture. So don't forget to, you know, give that historical and cultural connection to your students. So I kind of got them started. We, you know, did some practicing drills. We kind of learned a little bit of the few first parts of the ensemble. And then I was talking about like this, this ensemble piece is inspired from, West Africa. A lot of the styles are in there, and let's talk about like what countries are in West Africa. What is the culture like? What's the weather like? What's the landscape like? So I did something called a wonder walk, and I've been just slowly doing this format. I got this idea at the Kodai conference like 2 years ago, and I unfortunately can't remember her name. I'll put it here if I can find it. And she didn't call it a wonder walk, but she talked about how, when making those cultural connections, that she does it a lot of times visually. And so she'll get this big, long PowerPoint going of pictures, or she'll print them out and put them on the floor. And as the students are listening to music from that culture, they will walk around and visually look at it. And so I kind of took that and ran with it, and I just have called it now a wonder walk, because I want them to start thinking about like, what do they wonder about these pictures? So I played a West African drum ensemble piece and had that in the background, and then I just printed off all of these different pictures from West Africa about the history, about the culture, the food, different instruments of West Africa. Because a lot of the instruments that are in this first ensemble piece, like I don't actually have those specialty instruments. So we got to visually see what they really are looking like and make that connection of like what we have and what we're kind of connecting to the real, quote unquote, real instrument that is supposed to be in this piece. So it made, I just think the students after that, they were much more connected to the piece and kind of understood where it came from. And so then it just helped them even more to be motivated to practice hard and, try and get this piece done. So I learned a lot through this, and I think that the last little tip I have for you is just making sure that you are doing probably 15 to 20 minutes of practicing every lesson. It is a lot. I could tell my students like got a little bit of fatigue at the end, because it was just so much repetition and so much of doing that. And I talked about like, when you're making, when you're putting an ensemble together and there's multiple parts, like it can be really difficult, and it is something that you have to just practice and practice and practice and practice. And so it was a good life lesson for them to, feel that angst of like, oh, like, because we were getting towards the end, and we definitely had like 2 or 3 lessons where it just wasn't all coming together. We knew all the parts, but like it was hard layering them into with each other. And so it took a while for it to kind of finally sync. But it was really rewarding, and the students had so much fun with it. And then at the end, like, it was pretty like magical, like when they played it for their teacher, and like the teacher was really impressed, and like it was cool to hear her talk to them about like how amazing they did. And I could tell like the students felt really proud of themselves. So that is my world drumming unit tips and tricks. Again, that book, Music World Drumming by Will Schmid, is amazing if you are wanting to like dip your toes into the world of world drumming. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some tips and tricks, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.